You broke my drum. You thought it was just wood and skin. Ask the ground what it saw that night. Ask it.
In the red soil town of Abeokuta, there was one sound that made every heart dance: the harvest drum. Every year, when the rains finished and the yam beds grew fat and heavy, the whole town came alive. Old women tied their best wrappers, children ran barefoot to the square, farmers carried their biggest tubers on their heads and laughed with their teeth showing. The drum of Baba Tunde was what opened the gate. No drum, no festival. That was the law of Abeokuta since before anyone's grandfather was born. Baba Tunde was not just any drummer. He was a short, quiet man with hands like tree bark and eyes that had seen many harvests. When he sat down behind his drum and began to play, something happened in the air. Your chest would open. Your feet would move before your mind told them to. The children said his drum spoke. The elders said it did more than speak. They said the drum carried the voice of the ground itself, thanking the farmers for their care. But not every ear in Abeokuta loves that sound. Mazi Ike was the biggest yam seller in the whole market. He had 3 large barns. He had 4 workers. He had a voice like a man who had never been told no. And he had a plan every harvest season to sell his yams at whatever price he wanted. But during the festival, the farmers came together. They laughed and shared and sold to each other and to the buyers who came from far. No one man could control the price when the drums were playing, and the whole town was happy and moving together. Mazi Ike hated the festival. He hated the drum most of all. One evening, 2 weeks before the harvest, he walked to the edge of the square where Baba Tunde sat cleaning his drum. He stood over the old man and spoke in a low voice. "Baba Tunde, this year you will not play." The old man looked up slowly. He did not look afraid. He just looked tired, in the way that people look when they have heard foolish things before. Mazi Ike placed a thick envelope on the drum skin. "Take this money and stay inside your house on festival day. Tell them your hands are sick. Tell them anything, but do not play." Baba Tunde picked up the envelope and held it for a moment. Then he placed it back on the drum. "My hands answer to the ground, not to your money." Mazi Ike's jaw tightened. He picked up the envelope. He straightened his agbada. He smiled, the kind of smile that has no warmth in it. Then something will happen to those hands. My people, today's story, what I am about to tell you, the elders of Abeokuta are still talking about it today. A man tried to silence the harvest drum. He thought if the music stopped, the people would scatter and he would take everything. But my people, some things in this world cannot be silenced, not by money, not by threats, not by the hand of any man. This is the story of what happened when Mazi Ike sent 2 of his boys to Baba Tunde's compound the night before the harvest festival. What they did to that drum and what the drum did back at midnight will make the hair on your arms stand up and never lie down again. The next morning, Baba Tunde walked to his compound and stopped at the door. His drum was on the ground. The skin was cut. The wood on the side was cracked. His 2 sticks were broken in half and thrown into the dirt like they were nothing. He stood there for a long time. He did not cry. He did not shout. He just looked at what was left of the thing he had carried since his father placed it in his hands as a young boy. His neighbor Mama Chisom came out and saw it. She covered her mouth. "Baba Tunde, who did this?" He did not answer. He bent down slowly, picked up the two broken sticks and held them together like he was trying to make them one again. Word spread through Abeokuta before the sun was fully up. And my people, you know how Nigerians are. Some people came to shake their heads. Some came to whisper. But some, and this is the painful part, some came to laugh. The old man and his drum. Festival is cancelled this year. Oh. See him, he should have just taken the money. Even some of the younger farmers who used to dance to his drum said nothing. They looked at the ground and walked away. Because Mazi Ike was rich and they were not. And in some towns, money is louder than right and wrong. Mazi Ike stood at his barn that morning, smiling. He greeted people loudly. He even bought akara for some children just to show his good mood. The town square was quiet. No drum, no practice, no sign of festival coming. He thought he had won. My people, have you ever seen someone destroy something they thought could never fight back, only to find out they made a very big mistake? Comment below and tell me what you think is going to happen next. And if you are watching this and you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Press that button now. That same evening, Baba Tunde wrapped the broken pieces of his drum in an old cloth. He carried them on his back like a man carrying a sleeping child. He walked out of Abeokuta, past the last row of houses, past the cassava farms, down the narrow path that led to the old silk cotton tree by the stream. Nobody went to that tree after dark. The children knew not to, even the bold ones. But Baba Tunde was not afraid. He had been coming to that tree since he was young. His father brought him there once and told him something he never forgot. When the ground speaks, come here to listen. He sat down at the base of the tree and placed the broken drum in front of him. The stream was quiet. The night birds were singing soft and low. He did not pray out loud. He just sat there with his hands on the broken skin of the drum and kept still. Then he heard something, a small sound, like an animal in pain, coming from the edge of the stream. He stood up slowly and walked toward the sound. There, in the shallow water, caught between two roots, was a tortoise. One of its back legs was twisted and stuck under a root that had grown over it. It was struggling quietly, not making a big noise, just trying to get free the same way a tired person tries to carry one more thing. Baba Tunde did not think. He waded into the cold water with his old sandals on, bent down and carefully lifted the root just enough. The tortoise pulled its leg free. It sat still for a moment. Then it looked up at him. And my people, Baba Tunde told his daughter later that night that the tortoise looked at him the way only something very old and very knowing can look at a person. Not like an animal, like something that had been waiting for him specifically. He walked back to the tree. He sat down again. He did not know what he had just done, but the ground knew. Baba Tunde fell asleep under the silk cotton tree that night. He did not plan to. His back was against the bark, the broken drum in his lap, and sleep just took him the way sleep takes a man who has carried too much in one day. At midnight, he woke up, not because of a sound, not because of the cold. He woke up because of the stillness, the kind of stillness that is not empty but full, like the whole night was holding its breath. Then the drum began to play. My people, the drum that was broken, the drum with the cut skin and the cracked wood, sitting right there in his lap. It began to play, not loudly, softly at first, the way it always started at the beginning of harvest. That slow rolling sound that crept into your chest before you even knew it was there. Baba Tunde looked down at his hands. They were not moving. They were resting on his knees. But the drum was playing. He looked up. The tortoise was sitting directly in front of him. And around it, my people, around that small tortoise, the ground was glowing. Not fire, not light from any lamp. A soft, warm glow, the color of fresh palm oil coming up from the soil itself. The tortoise spoke.
You gave freely when you had nothing left. The ground does not forget. Then it was gone. Just like that. No movement, no walking away. Simply gone. But the drum continued to play. And as it played, something happened to the broken skin. The cuts began to close. Slowly, the way a wound heals on a patient person. The cracked wood on the side pressed itself back together. The two broken sticks, lying in the cloth beside him, rolled toward each other and joined at the break point like they had never been apart. By the time the drum finished playing, it was whole again, completely whole. Sitting in the lap of a trembling old man who had tears running quietly into his beard, Baba Tunde walked back into Abeokuta before the sun rose. He did not stop at his house. He walked straight to the town square with his drum on his shoulder. He set it down in its place in the center of the square, sat behind it, and waited. People started coming out for their morning business. Mama Chisom was the first to see him. She stopped walking and stared. Then she walked closer. She looked at the drum. She looked at his face. She opened her mouth and closed it again. Word moved through the town the way fire moves through dry grass. Baba Tunde is in the square with his drum, the same drum. People came out of their houses, farmers, market women, children pulling their mothers by the hand. They all stood around the square, looking at the drum that everyone had seen broken on the ground just yesterday. Nobody touched it. Nobody spoke loudly. They just stood there, looking. Then Mazi Ike came. He walked into the square with his big chest forward, the way he always walked. But when he saw Baba Tunde sitting behind a complete and perfect drum, his steps slowed down. He stopped. His eyes moved from the drum to the old man's face. Baba Tunde did not look at him with anger. He did not look at him with triumph. He just looked at him, the way the tortoise had looked at him by the stream. Calm, knowing, patient. Mazi Ike's mouth opened. That drum was broken. I saw it myself. How? He could not even finish the sentence. And then Baba Tunde raised his sticks. My people, when those sticks came down on that drum skin, the sound that came out was not a normal sound. It was the kind of sound that goes through your body and comes out the other side. Every person in that square felt it in their chest, their stomach, their feet. The children started dancing before they knew they were dancing. The old women began to cry, and they did not know why. 3 of the farmers who had said nothing when the drum was destroyed fell to their knees right there in the open square
and Mazi Ike, big, loud, barn-owning Mazi Ike, who had never bowed to anything in his life. His legs bent under him slowly, like something heavy was pressing him down, and he sat on the ground of the square in front of everyone and could not get up. The harvest festival of Abeokuta that year was the biggest anyone had ever seen. Farmers came from 3 towns away. Buyers came with full wallets. The yams were plenty. The food was plenty. The laughter was plenty. And above everything, above all the noise and the color and the dancing, the drum of Baba Tunde carried the whole day on its back. Mazi Ike did not come to the festival. Nobody went to look for him. His barns were full, but his chest was empty, because money can fill a barn, but it cannot fill the place inside a man that breaks when he is publicly humbled by something he cannot explain and cannot fight. He left Abeokuta 3 weeks later. Some said he went to his mother's village. Some said he went further than that. Nobody knew for certain, but everybody agreed on one thing: the town breathed easier after he left. Baba Tunde never spoke about what happened under the silk cotton tree, not to the market, not to the elders, only to his daughter. Late one night did he say this: the ground keeps record of everything.
Every good thing you do is a seed. You may not see it grow. You may not know when it will grow, but it grows. My people, this is what today's story is teaching us. You cannot silence what the earth has blessed. A man can break your drum. A man can take your money. A man can make the whole town look away from you. But if your hands have been faithful, if your heart has been clean, the ground itself will rise and fight for you. Now, here is your question for today, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. If someone destroyed something precious that belonged to you and the whole town said nothing, would you stay quiet and trust that justice would come, or would you go and handle it yourself? Drop your answer below. There is no wrong answer. And before you go, Father, we lift every person watching this right now, the ones who have been wronged and are still waiting, the ones who have been silenced and are still standing. Let their own drum play again. Let the ground rise for them the way it rose for Baba Tunde. Amen. If this story touched you, like this video and drop a comment so we know you are here. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because part 2 is coming. And what happens when Mazi Ike tries to return to Abeokuta is something you are not ready for. Subscribe so you do not miss it.